This is lesson 2.6. This is the first of 3 lessons for 2.6. The first one here is adding and subtracting positive and negative decimals. Okay, so the most important part with adding and subtracting decimals is making sure you keep the decimal all lined up. So if we look at number 2 here, first thing we have to pay attention to is that it is adding, so we're not changing any signs. Second thing is, what are the signs of the two numbers? So as you see, one of them is negative, and this one here is positive. So if you remember your rules of adding positive and negative numbers, if you're adding different signs, you find the difference of their absolute values. So absolute values of these two numbers, absolute value is always positive. So 0.72 or 0.072 and 5.3. Those are your absolute values. And then you always just do the greater absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. So 5.3, and we're finding the difference here. Again, different signs. So we find the difference, which means subtract. And then 0.072. So this is the most important part, making sure your decimals are all lined up. The 5 is in the ones and the 0 is in the ones place. 3 is in the tenths and this 0 is in the tenths. So everything has to be all lined up. And then we fill in zeros where the empty spots are. So a 0 above the 7 and a 0 above the 2. Now we do our subtracting. We cannot do 0 minus 2, so we borrow. We can't borrow from the 0 above the 7, so we borrow from the 3. 3 becomes a 2. This 0 becomes a 10. Borrow from the 10 becomes a 9, and that becomes a 10. So 10 minus 2 is 8. 9 minus the 7 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. Bring your decimal straight down. 5 minus 0 is 5. So we get 5.228. 5.228. Now we just need to figure out if it's positive or negative. So we look back at our original numbers and we say, okay, which one do we have more of? Do we have more positives or do we have more negatives? Well, we have more negative numbers, so our answer is going to be negative 5.228. Okay? If you want to try number 4 on your own, hit pause, try number 4, and then hit play and see if you get the right answer there. All right, if you remember, your rules for subtracting is we always do LCO, leave, change, opposite. We're subtracting a negative here, so we leave 8.22 alone, we change subtraction to addition, and we make the next number its opposite. So negative becomes positive. So now you see, we have to ask ourselves, do we have same signs or different signs? 8.22 is positive. 0.355 is positive, so we're adding two numbers with the same signs. So we actually do add these numbers. 8.22 plus 0.355. So again, I kept my decimal all lined up, everything in the right place value. Fill in the 0 above the 5, and now we add them together. 0 plus 5 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 2 plus 3 is 5. 8 plus 0 is 8, and we bring our decimal straight down. So our answer is 8.575, and then we just make sure if we have the right sign. So we are adding 8 positives with 0.355 positives, so our answer should be positive 8.575. 8 and 575 thousandths. Okay, and then you can always use your estimation skills. 8.22 is about 8, and 0.355 is about 0, and 8 plus 0 would be 8, and our estimation of 8 is pretty close to our exact answer of 8.575. All right, so again, if you want to try 6 on your own, hit pause and give it a shot. So again, number 6 is subtraction, so we want to do leave the first number alone, change subtraction to addition, make the next number its opposite. So now what you have is negative 29.5 plus 9.34. So you have to ask yourself, all right, we're adding, do we have same or different signs? One's negative, one's positive, so we have different signs, so we're going to subtract their absolute values. So 29.5 minus 9.34, subtracting their absolute values. Fill in the empty spot above the 4 with a 0, and we do our subtraction. So we borrow from the 5, it becomes a 4. That becomes a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 4 minus 3 is 1. Bring our decimal straight down. 9 minus 9 is 0, and that would be a 0 there. 2 minus 0 would be 2. So we get 20.16. Then you have to ask yourself, is it positive or negative 20.16? So if we go back to our original problem, negative 29.5 and positive 9.34, we definitely have more negatives than positives, so our answer is negative 20.16. All right, last one here. Number 16, again, if you want to try this on your own, hit pause. Everything is adding. We're adding all these numbers together, so we're not doing any leave change opposites. So our first one here, we have negative 3.59 plus 16.7. So we have different signs here. One's positive, one's negative. So we're going to subtract their absolute values. 16.7 minus 3.59. Again, you always subtract the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. Fill in the empty spot with a 0. Do our subtracting here. We'll have to borrow from the 7. Becomes a 6. That becomes a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring our decimal straight down. 6 minus 3 is 3. And 1, and again, that would be a 0 there. 1 minus 0 is 1. So we get 13.11. Then you have to ask yourself, is it positive or negative? So if we go back to the original numbers, negative 3.59, positive 16.7, we definitely have more positives than negatives. So our answer would be positive 13.11. And then we're adding negative 150.06 to that. Okay, so again, we're adding, no leave change opposite, it already is addition. And we're adding numbers with different signs. Different signs, find the difference. Again, difference means subtract. So we're going to subtract their absolute values. So 150 minus 150.06 minus 13.11. Again, notice how I kept the decimal lined up, all the place values lined up. So 6 minus 1 would be 5. We can't do 0 minus 1. We can't borrow from the 0, so we have to borrow from the 5. It becomes a 4. Carries to that, making it a 10. Now we borrow from the 10, making it a 9. And now that 0 becomes a 10. So we had to go 2 places again to borrow there. 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 minus 3 is 6. 4 minus 1 is 3. And 1, again, that would be a 0 there. 1 minus 0 is 1. So we get 136.95. Then you have to ask yourself, is it positive or is it negative? And again, if we go back up here, we have positive 13.11, negative 150.06. So we clearly have more negatives than we do positives. So our answer would be negative. All right, here's your homework. These last 4 problems there. Go ahead and solve all of those. Number 5, you should do LCO on number 5. And no LCO on 15, nothing on 3, nothing on 1. Those are already all addition. Okay, you have to show all of your work. Don't use your calculators. Show all your work just like I did above.